Welcome to the Rowdy Podcast. Today we have Mylene, the co-founder of Trailblaze Community, and a student from Waterloo. I think you should introduce yourself. She's our first guest for the show. So introduce yourself, Mylene.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm very excited to be on this podcast. So my name is Mylene. I am a fourth year engineering student at the University of Waterloo, and I'm also the founder and artist behind Trailblaze Collective, so formerly known as Trailblaze Tribe, but essentially it's a project that I created to help fund women's education in STEAM fields through NFTs. Outside of Web3, I'm also a product manager. But yeah, that's a little tiny bit about me, but happy to be here and excited for the conversation.
So Mylene, when did you get started in this space?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for me, I actually only hopped into Web3 in January of this year. So it was really at the end of the previous startup that I was working on. So I forgot to mention this earlier, but before hopping into Web3, I was also a Web2 founder. So I started a company in the B2B SaaS space. And as that company was ramping down, I was kind of reflecting on what do I actually like about building things. And a lot of it tied back to community building, social impact, and technology. And so when I heard about Web3, I was like, wow, this is the perfect intersection of all of that. So in January, I kind of just jumped right in and kind of from there found myself in a rabbit hole of just trying to learn as much as I could, especially through building my own project. So that's pretty much when I got started.
So what was your motivation behind believing that Web3 is the future?
Yeah, there's a lot of skepticism out there. I know Web3 doesn't necessarily have the best press. There's kind of back and forth reviews as to how people feel about the space. And I won't lie, I was one of those people too. So I actually found out about Web3 in November of last year. My boyfriend, he was really into it, but I was kind of just like, oh, like, I don't really understand what it means. And it just sounds like at the time I associated it with the metaverse, but I know now metaverse does not equal Web3. So it was really interesting, just like trying to learn more about the space. And I think what got me to believe more in the technology is as I started to educate myself more on what is actually happening under the hood, it started to spark more curiosity. So I think I was just driven by wanting to be a part of something new and wanting to be a part of something where I could contribute and kind of be this early adopter to this really cool new space. So yeah, a lot of it was driven through wanting to feel like a trailblazer or like a pioneer in this really cool new space and trying to, again, just immerse myself in new technologies. So I think that part of it got me to like get started is the curiosity. And then what keeps me staying in the space is the community. I think that everyone who I've met in Web3 so far, for the most part, has been extremely helpful. Everyone is very open to collaboration, and you can learn so much because everyone is just like beaming with energy and curiosity. And so I think that the community is one that is so different than other communities that I've been in the past, where it is not competitive. People are trying to lift each other up together, and everyone's just really taking this growth and learning mindset. So I think that really motivates me to want to stay in this space and believe in its potential, even through downturn and, you know, all the news that we're hearing.
Talking about community, I know that Trailblaze is very warm community and very welcoming. So where do you see the venture shaping up, let's say in like 5 years down the line?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's crazy because no one really knows what 5 years down the line looks like. You know, we don't even know what some of the early projects now will look like in 5 years because we just haven't hit that point yet. And so I'm really excited to see what that looks like. And I think what we're starting to see now, especially in like this bearish market, is that people are really focused on building long-term brands. You know, NFT projects worked really well last year when it was kind of the boom of Web3 and people were just getting really excited. But then we started to see that fizzle out because people wanted real utility. They wanted brands that would actually last a long time. And we don't necessarily know what that looks like yet, but I think that's really what I'm trying to work towards now is how do I slowly grow my community to build that sustainable future? And so I think, you know, with a lot of projects, we see them pumped with growth. They sell out like instantly within 5 minutes, and you have all these users and all these people who hop in, and even people who might not be aligned with your mission. And I think that that's honestly a cause of friction for a lot of founders, because for a lot of these people, they're new founders, or they're just not used to having all this influx of growth and money. And so it can become really overwhelming. And so the expectations for founders is much different, and we haven't really found a happy medium there yet. So what I like about the community that I'm building now is, even though it's slow and the numbers are not like in the hundreds of thousands or anything like that, I know that with the small tight knit community I have, I can continuously go to them for feedback and ideas. And through having that community feedback and some of those like one-on-one connections, you really grow a strong foundation for your community. And when those people feel empowered, they'll bring in even more people. And so to me, I see it as like Lego bricks, I guess, where things are just kind of building up. So if you can get 100 people who are really, really excited about your project and passionate about their mission, about your mission, then they will start to bring in other people. And so although I don't know what the next 5 years looks like, I know that like building in this way will at least solidify that foundation so that we can still be around 5 years from now.
So I think the motivation you have to help STEM students is really big. I want my listeners to know it as well. So can you elaborate a bit about it more?
Yeah, so I guess like just breaking down what STEAM is in general. So a lot of people probably heard of the term STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. But STEAM incorporates A in there, which is representative of the arts. So science, technology, engineering, art, and math. The reason that we decided to focus on this is really because, especially in the NFT space, like art is crucial. So the intersection of art and technology is really interesting from that angle. But from an academic standpoint, you want to incorporate some of that creative thinking into your problem solving, because you can't just have all theory and all science. When you have more complex problems, you need creative thinking to be able to proactively solve those problems. And so that's why I think STEAM in general is really important, and that's why we decided to focus on that. But aside from that, the reason why I'm so passionate about the space is, me myself, I identify as a woman in STEAM. I've gone through, my own challenges in engineering and, other underrepresented industries. And so being able to provide support is really, really important to me. So that's what I'm so excited about with Trailblaze Collective, is that, because we're taking this slow growth approach and we're releasing our NFTs in small batches, what we can actually do is, in every single time we sell out a small batch of NFTs, we can then give out scholarships. We can give out fully funded boot camps. So we have a partner, and they're called Collab, and they basically run tech boot camps for individuals to break into those careers. And then also, embracing people who have non-traditional paths. So we also want to offer online course credits and things like that. And obviously a charitable donation, since that's also really, really important. So every single batch of NFTs will be able to cover each of those core initiatives, but then there's so much more that we want to do as well with the community as we continue to grow.
That is so nice. I didn't know the whole thing. Well, so I think I will come to my last question. Do you have any advice for beginners who are just trying to understand how the space is, and what would be your resources that you would like to share?
Yeah, I would say the biggest advice that I have for people who are just getting started in the space or who are curious and want to learn more is really just be driven by your curiosity. When you find one thing interesting, don't be afraid to reach out to people or try to seek out people who have more knowledge in that space, because you'll kind of have this ripple effect where you find one area of interest, and by talking with more people, you might find another thing that they brought up, and then from there you can keep hopping to these new topics, because Web3 is just so broad. There's so many different things to explore. And so by just going on a path that's fueled by your own curiosity, it's really exciting, and you'll learn a lot really fast. So don't be afraid to reach out to individuals. In terms of resources, I have not personally used these, but I know this has been really helpful for some individuals. So for example, the A16Z Crypto Canon, I believe that's what it's called. That's a really good resource. Even just like, again, being active on Twitter, there's always a lot of Twitter threads and Twitter spaces that happen that have a lot of really, really useful information. But I think the number one tool is really just reaching out to people in the community. Not everyone may reply, but for the most part, people are pretty receptive to someone who's genuinely trying to learn more in the space. So just don't be afraid to reach out, and don't be afraid to find communities and contribute in them. Since once you find that really good DAO community or NFT community, you'll be able to find like-minded individuals who are also passionate about the same things. And again, that'll really just trickle forward, and you'll be able to figure out those next few steps.
My learning resource was Magic Eden. There are a lot of like articles and YouTube page that talks about what are NFTs, what is Solana, what is Ethereum, and YouTube as well. Like they have a lot of information out there.
Yeah, for sure. I actually just saw recently Magic Eden released like this learning hub page where it'll take you through all the basic steps of like, one, what is an NFT? And then from there, what is minting? What is a crypto wallet? All of this stuff. And I was like, I saw this yesterday actually. And I was like, man, if I found this in January, this would have like been so much better, because I had no clue what minting was in January. So it just goes to show, like, in even just 4 months, you're able to learn really quickly as long as you look for those resources.
For sure. I think we'll wrap it up for today. It was nice having you, Mylene. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I think that what you're doing is absolutely amazing, and I'm so excited to hear the rest of the podcast series that you have. So thank you again for having me.
Well, for the subscribers, if you want to keep watching more videos, please like, share, and subscribe.